I'm very curious about. I'm seeing a lot of this, and it's partly is because of my history at MuleSoft and so on. But we're seeing data in companies, data at rest, and data at in motion,
Hmm.
and there's all sorts of vendors that are in both spaces.
Hmm.
If you're in the data in rest halo, you're applying AI to and spotting anomalies and this and that, and that same can be said for data in motion vendors. They're all building a story around predictively, and there's vendors coming in that stack. And so break this down for me.
I mean, this is all encryption, right? Ultimately, this is a decryption topic. You just described encryption topic, right? I mean, the only difference between data in motion versus data at rest is the data written to disk or not, right? I mean, that's the entire difference between the two, quite literally. Um, um, so I'll just take you back to what we said about fear. Sure, you can because most people don't understand this very well. I mean, the reality is your customer base really doesn't understand what they're buying for the most part, right? Then it's easy to come up with, more and more hyped up little things that discuss data in motion in some different way that sounds different than something before, and come up with a clever marketing term. I mean, this is a true greenfield for marketers right now. And cloud computing. I love cloud computing. What's cloud computing? It's mainframe now, basically, just on a large scale, right? We're literally, cloud computing is going back to the 60s when you had dumb terminals and a mainframe just connected by wires. Now it's just they're not connected by wires, and we call it cloud computing, and it's suddenly all new and exciting. The models existed for 80 years. Anyhow, putting that aside for a second, it's a green field for marketers and it's lovely, but at the end of the day, you're talking about the same concept. You have data that's moving from one system to another, so you want to protect it while it's moving from one system to another from prying eyes, right? And you have data that is stored in a system and you want to protect it from, prying eyes while it's stored in a system. If you think about mail carriers, right, it's like, the mail carrier carrying the secret, intelligence that is in an envelope from one place to another, from somebody stealing it and reading the letter, or whether the letter is in a safe and somebody breaks into the safe and grabs it. That's your data at rest, right? I mean, there's nothing clever or special about any of these concepts. They've existed literally for millennia. So this is another great example of the amazing ability right now of creating and generating hype around security solutions. But let's talk about encryption for a second. I love this.
Let's go there. And then I want to go to Kubernetes, but yeah, let's go encryption.
Sure. Encryption is fantastic, especially encryption at rest. Why? Because at some point, somebody convinced some lawmaker who understands nothing about technology and all that encryption of data in where it is stored is essential in order to protect the data, right? Without any understanding of what that means. And in some contexts is useful, but the contexts are extremely limited. And where it gets interesting is where you have everybody focusing on encryption at rest of data, say when for a company that might be a SaaS provider and all their data is in the cloud, right? And they're storing customer data in like S3 buckets or in some RDS that Amazon manages, right? And if they don't encrypt the data on the disk by paying Amazon a little bit of extra money for that privilege, right? Then their enterprise customers will never sign a deal with them. But let's talk about the effectiveness of that encryption. What does it actually buy you? The only place where it buys you anything is if somebody broke into the Amazon data center, which is really well protected, they have good chief security officers, and physically stole the media and ran away with it and then read it. And by the way, there's the whole issue of the data being spread across multiple disks because of the virtualization, complexity of virtualization. It doesn't protect anything in terms of a hacker breaking into the cloud instance, because once they break into the cloud instance, they don't need access to the keys. All they have to do is exercise the same application that is already there, that is interacting with the encrypted data, and basically run a request, hey, give me the data. I don't need to know the keys. I have an application that can access the data. So I'm just going to use the application. I don't need to break anything. There's no encryption, doesn't provide any protection at all from that whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. There's no angle where, you know, me simply running the command that is already present in the software that is being sold as a service in the cloud to get the data that's encrypted without ever having access to the keys. And yet everybody is getting all, you know, excited about the keys and the AWS.
Yeah, well, you see a parent key and then a child key, then a child key.
The this and the that, whatever. Yeah. It's just, if I have an application that can access the data and decrypt it, then I don't need the keys. I'm just going to use the application.